Liz Trubridge, another executive producer as well, who manages the shoots, particularly as the piece unfolds. And then from the cast, absolutely delighted after an hour and a half of grilling by our television and radio colleagues downstairs, would you please welcome Joanne Froggatt, Anna Bates and Alan Leach, Tom Branson. Ladies and gentlemen, your panel. If I can just get the ball rolling, first of all, with you, Gareth. As I say, I come to it as someone who is a news junkie, but also loves very high-quality drama. And we began this whole journey with the sinking of the Titanic and the movement toward the First World War. And now we are 1924, the first Labour government in the United Kingdom. Do you consciously seek a big macro canvas from which you can then hang all of the amazingly interesting subplots?
Well, fortunately, every single year of the 20th century, something happened of considerable interest, and so my history is advanced as looking at Wikipedia and looking at the end in 24 and so what are the four really interesting things that happened, including the first ever, I think, the first ever commercial flight on Imperial Airways, the predecessor of British Airways, which we did have a thought of using in some way, but didn't in the end. The show right from the beginning has been about the dying of the light. It's the end of this era. We started in 1912 because it was really the apogee of the aristocracy, the country house, everything about the world at the height of its powers. And slowly we've seen that decline, largely as a result of the First World War. So it was inevitable that we would use the first ever socialist government, because of course to these people they see it as a direct threat. Those who are above stairs see it as a direct threat to their way of life. The characters below stairs see it as an opportunity for huge change. And characters like Tom Branson, as ever, is sort of caught in a no man's world between his own political views and the life that he's sort of adopted.
But if you didn't have that, the end of the light, the great social and economic changes unfolding, it would be another upstairs, downstairs, or a saloon. That's what elevates it to something more substantial.
We've always wanted to our approach is to show that these characters are more like us than they are different to us. And we, as human beings, are motivated by show business, celebrity, politics, culture, we're befuddled by technology. The experiences that these characters go through are very, very similar to the experiences we go through. So showing real events and having characters comment on politicians who are long since forgotten shows that they're very like us.
Liz, when you want to freshen the company as well, you have your established stars, and two of them are with us today, but we know that you've got 2, 3, and in episode 1 we've just seen Duckface doing absolutely brilliantly as Anstruther. That's a big gamble. Someone who can disrupt the storyline and buys in to what Gareth was just talking about and will fit. You police this operation when it's out on the shoot. Do you also have to police who comes and joins the party?
Yeah, I mean, Gareth, Julie and I, and with Chris, our producer, we are involved in the casting process all the way through. And, you know, people often say, we're very lucky, we have lots of actors who say, I've been Downton. And they're great actors that we love to work with, but we won't be led by that. It's got to come out, it's got to be organic in the story.
But you also intriguingly have to translate what I'm talking about there to an audience now that reaches across over 230, 240 territories. It is well rewarded with international awards and what have you, but different audiences would grasp all of what he's talking about and very little of it. You have to take that into account as well.
We do, but you know, we've created, and particularly now we're on Series 5, we have a very well-established world we've created, and we have rules and regulations within that. And anybody coming in, and Alistair Bruce, our historical advisor, will guide them into exactly what happens, what doesn't happen. And it's amazing how quickly, how willing people are to embrace that, because otherwise they stick out like a sore thumb.
Let me ask Joanne, given that as the backdrop to it, an accomplished actor as you are, and you've got the themes of whether your husband is a serial murderer, whether he knows about the rape or whether you're going to discuss the rape, all of those personal tragedies and challenges. But does that environment that we were talking about make your work easier, or do you focus entirely on, I'm an actress and I'm working through those personal crises?
I think it does make it easier, actually, certainly for me, because it sort of builds this world that you're in, and you want to, you know, you want your character obviously to be as believable as he or she possibly can be. And all those other elements that, you know, that we take into account, the time period and the etiquette of the times and how things are different for women and men and the classes and all of those things, all, I think, just weave a little bit more into your own personal story, because it sort of changes how you play a scene as, you know, a woman living in 1924 as opposed to a woman living in, you know, 2014.
And 15, 20 years before 1924, as a lady's maid, you would not be consulted on who Madam should marry or not. You now are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Lady Mary and Anna do have a very special relationship that's evolved over the series, and you know, they are friends. I mean, they are still within this constraint of a servant, you know, employer relationship. But as they've grown individually and grown up and turned into women, they've also really become real confidants and look out for each other and do have each other's best interests at heart. So that's a relationship I really love in this story, because that's a relationship that crosses those boundaries and constantly crosses those boundaries, which is really nice, and I think that's what makes it quite an interesting friendship.
And it was mentioned by Gareth and Alan, but we first got to know you as a kind of Fenian rebel who would not be averse to lobbing a bomb if the opportunity arrived. We are now...
He always called himself a socialist rather than that.
I'm an objective journalist. We're now, apart from 24 and the Labour government, we're also, intriguingly, 3 years on from Northern Ireland being created as something that would guarantee a unionist majority for the foreseeable future. And again, Julian brilliantly is giving you lines and challenges that are just touching upon that without doing it with a great big brushstroke. Yeah. Given that you know where you were in Series 1, is that evolution logical to you? Is it amusing, or do you think it didn't happen? Because you're really on a winner at the moment, aren't you?
Yeah. No, don't push it too much, they might come on. I think it is believable, given the circumstances. It's the other circumstances that have brought him there. His love for his wife at the time, her death has seen him placed into this situation. And it's a very exciting time for Branson in the fact that you constantly see the blurring of these lines between the classes. And the fact, as you say, the first socialist government comes into power. Obviously Branson would be delighted by that, and it does solidify your position as an actor and as this character. It kind of, almost for the first time, Branson is properly getting his footing, you know. He has an opportunity to see change from the inside out, and that's always what he wanted to see.
You're not allowed to give away, but do you resolve that dilemma as a character as the series unfolds?
It's definitely the challenge for Branson this year, is the fact that he has to decide exactly not only where he sits within his class system, but what kind of man he wants to be, and what kind of father he wants to be for his daughter.
Brilliant. Thank you all very, very much indeed. We've got time for some questions if you have them, and if you do, if you just let me know who you are and where you're from, and hurl your question to whosoever you wish to. Who would like to break the ice?
No.
You know everything. Yes, the woman there. And again, if you wouldn't mind saying who you are, where you're from.
Yes, of course. Sharon Locker from Metro newspaper. I have a question for Alan. Would you like to see Branson go back full circle in his journey? Without giving too much.
With, as in with his political views, I suppose. I think he's such a changed man through his circumstance. It'd be impossible for him to go back to the man he was. I think he's not as naive as he was when he first arrived. I think he had a great line last year that said, "I now don't believe in types, I believe in people." I think he's completely changed his outlook. He's still very strongly politically minded, but I don't think he could possibly go back to the way he was. He was a bit of a firebrand. He was, you know, very strong in his views. I think those views, I think he's more educated now than he ever was before. He's still quite good at driving, yeah.
Nothing wrong with the car, was there?
Nothing wrong with the car. Nothing wrong with it. He should have driven.
But Trotsky's niece could sway you, couldn't she? She's an interesting character.
Yes.
The teacher from the village.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, gentleman sitting next to the Metro.
Good afternoon. Donald from RT in Dublin. It's a question for Gareth. Recently you said, in reference to criticism of season 4, that while you thought it was very good season 4, there were aspects of it that were not perfect, and some things you would have changed. So what would you have changed?
Oh, that's one of those sort of generic answers. But there was a relatively hostile question from somebody in LA about 2 weeks ago. Do you remember?
Yeah.
He was suggesting there was a sense he hadn't enjoyed season 4 as much as others. So I think he was really talking about his own review, and I said something like, "Oh, I remember your review." But no, I think I was just trying to say. I mean, I think season 4, I'm really honest, was actually one of the best seasons of the show. But you don't want to say everything was perfect. I mean, in no show do you get every decision right. We're very happy with it. But if you had the opportunity to go back and do things, then you'd always change something like that. I can't think of anything specifically. No.
Can I add to that? Because it intrigued me. Have there been moments where you've thought, either in series 1, 2, 3, or 4, here's a line we may go off upon, and then realise with Julian and Liz and the cast like actually,
anything that we have to write, we will change in the process. So we edit it, so it's not that it's that you go through a process as you make the show. There's nothing that we've presented that I would change fundamentally.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Ian, I'm freelance. Question for Gareth and Liz. We thought
Sorry, is the microphone on?
Press the button and it doesn't come up.
How about that?
No.
How about that?
No.
Project.
Is that better? Question for Gareth.
Yes,
Oh, yes.
thank you. I apologise, I wanted us all to hear you.
That's all right. Question for Gareth and Liz. We saw a glimpse of Richard E. Grant as Simon Bricker at the trail at the end there. Can you talk just a little bit about his character and some of the other new faces we'll see throughout the series?
Simon Bricker plays an art historian, and he is. We know that Downton Abbey has some rather beautiful paintings in it, so he's introduced through a character, and he stays with us for a few episodes. And yeah, keep watching that for him. There are several guest casts this year, and they have, particularly as the series has progressed, there have been more. And I can't say too much about any of them without giving the storylines away. So we've had, as you've seen Lady Anstruthers, so we are very lucky in this show. We can attract incredible actors to come and play guest roles, which you would think that in many shows they wouldn't look at. But and Julian's writing is such, I think this is part of the reason we attract them, that he has a great skill in economy of writing, that he writes very satisfying stories in a very short space of time. So you can have 3 cracking scenes that means we get really the pick of casting. And I'm sorry not to be more specific about him, but I'll be shocked.
Which would not be very agreeable.
Not very Downton.
Yes, thank you. Still having the same problem with mine. Let's sort it for you if we may.
TV choice and total TV guide question for Joanne. The rape storyline last series was extremely shocking and caused a huge amount of media coverage. What was the reaction from to you, fans on the street, or any reaction response?
The reactions I got personally from sort of people on the street and fan responses was all positive. Actually, I didn't have one negative response from anybody. It was all positive in support of the storyline and everybody's work involved in that. And I felt very honoured to receive some letters, a small number of letters from women that had been through similar experiences as well, and felt that Anna, was a character they could connect with and that they could totally connect with, even this modern day, her not being able to speak about what had happened to her, not feeling she'd been believed or not being believed. And that was, as I say, very touching for me that these women felt able to be very candid with me in their letters and honest in that way. So, it was a very moving experience for me, really, in all honesty, the whole process and the storyline.
Thank you. Oh, lots and lots. Can we? I'm slightly guided by my colleagues who are managing microphones. Should we go?
Let's get in there like a
Let's go to the woman who is third in there with the hair up. Thank you. And then can we get the other microphone along to the woman who's wearing the orange top here, so we can then be ping pong. You first.
Hi, I'm Hannah Flint from Mail Online. It's a two-part really. How many series are you hoping to go on for? And if so, what other historical moments would you love to feature in the storyline?
Hold, Gareth.
Margaret Thatcher's landslide.
So those two little toddlers that we saw will be in their 50s by the time they make that decision that you and I were talking about in 79 and 97.
Exactly.
Julian would like writing that one.
You know, we'll show, and I hope you enjoyed the episode. We think season 5 is a really fantastic season. We're very focused on this. We hope to be back again next year. You know, we think 1 year to the next, and we'll see.
To what extent is that an audience reaction judgment and a function of Julian and the rest of you thinking, we've now done this? How is that judgment made, in effect?
I think we have to make that judgment. That's all of us. I think it's, you know, it's the producers, it's the cast, everyone, we're all in this thing together. I feel the show is in. There's something about, I don't know what you will feel on having watched it, but the strange effect of this show as a show about a family, a soap, if you will, this community of characters, is that the more that you get to know them, the more of a journey that you go on with these characters and all the others. Somehow I find myself more compelled by them. I don't find myself getting bored and feeling that their stories are told. The more I am feeling that I'm living my life with those characters, the more compelling I find them.
But also, there was always 2 generations, there are now 3.
Yes.
Yeah, which is an intriguing, very good investment, if I might say so. Your second question. I thought you had 2
Oh no,
questions.
that's kind of too far.
Oh, you see, you said I got 2!
As in,
2 parts.
how many series?
Oh, right, so you got what you wanted.
Well, I could ask what the rest of the panel
No,
would
no,
like.
Do you want to add 2? It's not fair to ask them, because they're poor jobbing actors.
We have no idea.
They come home 59, but you know...
I have nothing to add.
Then fine, that's great. Thank you very much, Lee. Woman in the orange top.
Hi, Karen Clark, TV and Satellite Week and TV Times. Question for Alan. You've got a new Sibby and also a new George. What would they like to work with?
They were great. I became known as the Whisperer, the Dragon Man, and the Fire Starter. We used to, a game obviously to keep kids entertained was if they were really good in the takes, we'd go in search of the dragons, because there's other effigies of dragons around the castle. And if we were really good, we might be able to see them move before they freeze, because they get scared of humans. Amazingly, we haven't found them moving yet. The other one is all of the fires that we have in the show are controlled by our special effects team. And another great one was to see Magic Man, as I'm known, to make the flames go very high and then very small. So I turned them into fantasy-loving pyromaniacs.
Did you shoot before you got this part?
Did I shoot as in guns?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were very good last night. I don't think the rabbit stood a chance.
He did. I actually hit 6 with that one shot.
I've seen that before.
No animals
It's
were harmed.
brutal.
No animals were harmed.
Several
They were
animals
dead
were harmed.
already. They were dead already.
I know where I'm going next. Have I got one who wants to guess? Can we bring the microphone down to the woman in the front row? And you're next.
Hello, I'm Nicole from Daily Mail. Gareth or Liz, obviously the rape was a huge shock last year and almost a scandal. Is there going to be anything like that that's just going to really shock its viewers this year?
I think we've always tried to have each season there's hopefully one of those sort of right angle moments that you don't really expect to happen. So it's an effective part of the storytelling, so I hope you'll think so.
I tell you what. You can read so much of that. Totally serious, straight, bulk shoulder answer and a chortle. I think that's worth pursuing. Right, we went over here. Yes, you. And then perhaps if we could, can we move to the woman in the black top there? And there's also, and then after that, I've seen you. My apologies. My eyesight's not what it once was. Yes.
Hi, Carla Adams from the Washington Post. You talked about all of the Emmy nominations. Why do you think it's been such a hit in the United States? And also for the actors, are you recognized on the streets in the US? And do you have any anecdotes around that?
Can I turn that on its head? And I don't know where you were going with it, but we'll do it, but in this order instead. I mean, as working actors, that is extraordinary. The number of 50, 51, I think, nods to it, and quite extraordinary. So how do you forget them for a moment? How does that impact on you? Because that is a great peer group applaud, isn't it?
Yeah, it's incredible. I don't think none of us would dare to expect, the success of Downton as it's become,
When did you think this is a cracker?
Well, I was joking when we first started filming, saying, oh, well, I'm the kiss of death to any show because I've never done a second series of anything. So if I'm in it, it definitely won't go again. So I was wrong about that, thank goodness. But I, as soon as I read the script, I fell in love with my character and I didn't want to put it down. And then...
If you go to New York or Washington or Boston perhaps, do people go,
yeah, they do. I mean,
it's him off.
Often when we're in America, we're often doing press trips and stuff, and there's often a group of us. So as a group, we're quite conspicuous. I remember one night we went to see Dan Stevens' show on Broadway, The Heiress, and I think we caused more of an attraction than the show did that night because we couldn't sort of get to, leave our seats for people stopping us. And it was lovely. It was all, again, just very positive, and people sort of going, wow, what are you doing here? We didn't expect to see you here. So I think that's the reaction we get abroad, people sort of bump into it, like, why are you here?
And do you think they get the class thing? I mean, in New England and Washington, New York, it is a rich and famous and thriving social stratification, but in parts of the United States of America, those class subtleties perhaps wouldn't be so obvious.
I think it's the fascination with British culture as well, and what
Yeah.
Downton allows you to be as a voyeur, and allows you into the whole world. It allows you upstairs and downstairs, and it allows you to see the workings of this household, and it also, the great thing about Downton is it's full of secrets and full of drama. And as a viewer, as a voyeur, you get to see all the elements, and I think that's what it is. There's also 22 main characters. There's a good chance you're going to find one you want to root for and one you want to hate.
And when you've been in the States, has there been one-to-one engagement? How did this happen?
Yeah, I had Passport Control, still my best one, where the episode had just aired where I'd left Sybil pregnant in Dublin and run away, having burnt out the landed gentry. And the man at Passport Control he was an elderly man in his 60s, he took my passport, looked at me, took my passport, looked at me again, and went, "That's a shitty thing you did to your wife." So,
what are the criteria that you tick so successfully to take the second part of the question?
Yeah, well, I think it's the same globally, really. You take this quintessential British genre that we all know about. It's very familiar. It's a very easy brand to sell globally. Everyone has a sense of it, from Jane Austen and Agatha Christie, but of course it's always been a literary tradition, really. Upstairs, downstairs, of course, an original piece of television as well, but largely this world is depicted in a literary environment, and ours is not literary.
Jane Austen allusion at the very end as well.
Yes, it's an original. The storytelling is fast-paced, it's contemporary, it's multi-layered, it has numerous characters that offer different points of entry.
But they're sticklers for quality of production as well.
Well,
it can't just be nicely written and well acted.
It's a different quality of production, isn't it? We look at American shows, we look at True Detective and think, what an extraordinary looking production, we could never do anything like that over here. In America, it's all about what's exotic to you, I suppose.
But Netflix and The Wire and their version of House of Cards, there is a different tone, atmosphere, taste to it, where almost it makes the point that you both make. There is something fundamentally traditional about Downton, even if it tests all sorts of intriguing and delicate issues, it is classic.
It's classic, but the storytelling is the pace of a modern show.
Yeah. Did you hear what you wanted to hear? I'm delighted. Where did we go over here? We went there, didn't we? And then after her, can you promise to put your hand up, lady there, and hello, and then we'll go here. So, right, off we go.
Hi.
We're out on time, by the way, I have no idea. Oh, okay, let's be speedy then.
I'm Anna from The Telegraph. So last series was quite heavy. A lot of the characters that we really liked were very miserable. So Mary, Edith, Anna, all going through quite sad things. Will the next series, will the characters be happier?
Where's the yo-ho-ho coming from?
I mean, there is in all our series, I think, that I would like to think anyway, a good mix of high drama and laughs. And there is certainly that mix this time. And, we, of course, last series, it was straight after Matthew's death. We couldn't go in with great fun from that, but we do not have that this year, and there is, you will be happy to hear, I'm sure, great rivalry again between Mary and Edith.
Do you get laughs from the kids? And we got one last Donk, which is quite fun. And reminds lots of parents of being
Fifi Hart, who plays, is just fantastic.
So, Telegraph readers will be delighted to know that they can chortle on a Saturday morning and say, crack the best crossword puzzle in the world. My very good friend here.
The flower scene was very gripping, very exciting. The great drama there. Was that shot in the house or the studios? How many takes? How did you actually do it? Because it was very convincing.
Well, I'm going to throw that question to Liz, if that's all right.
Right, fine.
Okay.
How many takes and how long it take and where did you shoot it? Was it studio or the house?
You will imagine that it was both. The house, because of the very nature of a stately home, you can't have smoke because it causes damage.
You can't set fire to it.
And also,
you can tell that to the princess.
we didn't want to build the smoke damage to their house. And although they did say we could have smoke on their gallery, by the very nature of it being a gallery, it's open and you can't contain it. So actually our designer rebuilt the galleries on the stages at Ealing. So we did some of the sequences at Highclere and we built a room which we could burn at Ealing, Edith's bedroom there. And so it was a mixture of both with obvious effects. So we had special effects, visual effects, and we built up during the day because we had gas bars everywhere. And obviously we had to do it out of character for us. We had to do it sequentially, so that we got worse and worse and worse. And then the cameramen at the very end, they got themselves in complete waterproof gear and were hosed down happily by my friend here. So they just did it.
Oh, listen, it was just a joy to see them all dripping wet.
Was it the whole day?
No, I know you. My friend there at the back, and I fear that's going to have to be the last one, is it? Yes. So you, madam.
Hi, it's Jane Farrow from The Sun. Joanna, it was...
Say your name and organisation again.
Jane Farrow from The Sun.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so Joanna, we know that Anna had a really tough time last year. Would you like to see her now settle down, have a baby, a bit more happiness, or is that reticence to have a baby we just saw because she thinks Bates might actually be a serial killer?
I don't think Anna thinks for a moment that Bates is a serial killer. But yeah, it's difficult. Sort of what I'd like to see for Anna and Bates as a viewer is probably different as what I'd like to see as an actress, because as an actor you like to play the drama, but it's also, it's important to have the fun times and the nice times and the happy times in between as well to earn those moments. So, I think I'd like to see a mixture of the two really, and I think that's what they get in season 5. I think, they're trying to move forward and there are certainly moments of happiness and positivity for them, but obviously that's not going to be an easy journey.
We've done. My profound apologies to those hands that I wasn't able to come to. Thank you all very much for your questions. Thank you very much on behalf of NBC and Carnival and ITV for coming along. And purely as a friendly and loving courtesy, would you join me in thanking our panel for their time?